Grant Moeller is absent. Dan Sheets,
Here.
Walt Minnick,
Yes.
Andy Bailey, also absent. Jeff Chenoweth.
Here.
And Chad Colby.
Here.
And then staff members Liz Ditzel and Kat Bell are present. Attorney Jay Moore is on his way.
Next up, we have our minutes from the last meeting. Do we see any changes or amendments to those?
I looked them over, did not see anything. I would make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, a motion. Second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One aye.
Yeah, I was absent.
I was absent as well, so I will abstain. Sounds like Jeff will abstain. Were you both?
Then your minutes will have to wait.
All right, we'll
Go.
You need
Yes.
4 for the board
Yeah, Jim.
for anything to pass.
entertain a motion to table the minutes until next meeting.
So moved.
All right.
That was Chad.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There. Old business, we have none. We'll move on to our public hearings. The first one is application CC 2025-00449, the petition of Taylor Farrell. If you could take us through that, please, Liz.
Can. So this is a request for a primary approval of a one-lot minor subdivision, the TC Farrell minor subdivision. Both this property and everything around it are zoned agriculturally. This is a 2-acre first split from a 93.18 acre parent tract on the west side of North 730 East between 0 North South and 100 North. It's in Section 1 of Michigan Township. The petitioner would like to build a single non-farm dwelling on the lot for himself and his family. A point system was run on the new lot and it did score enough to be administratively approved and did not need to go to the BZA. The lot that's to the north of the proposed lot is the petitioner's relative's residence. This is kind of an area where there's a couple of family members together. So there's a picture there on the second page of the site. The new home is in the I'd be about legal watershed.
Nothing to be about.
Perfect. And then there's just a couple soils there. It's mostly stark silt loam. The petitioner is requesting primary plat approval. The standard rural development protection language is included in the covenants. Jay will be here momentarily. I'll talk about that in a moment. The surveyor's office provided a drainage board waiver for this proposed lot on March 3rd of 2025. The health department has approved the new lot is suitable for a septic system, but it will require perimeter drainage outlet. That outlet has been located and is shown on the plat, and it's 44 inches deep and looks like it'll work. County Highway has no objection to a drive access for this lot, and the reciprocal enforcement clause in the covenants is included and can be initiated by adjacent landowners within a quarter mile. In terms of principles and standards of design, the restricted covenants that are properly prepared and legally sound. So these were provided to Jay, and we ended up discussing this today. Did you get a hold of House Surveying today?
I left him a message.
Okay, so there are two items on these covenants that I don't know that either one of them holds up the world, but things that we need to make sure that we've accounted for.
And House does have that same little tagline as Ron's on his.
In there, so we're good on the rural development.
Yeah,
clause.
we're okay on
Okay,
that.
so one item's been taken care of. Is it Farrell or is it the other one that needed a second signatory? It's the other one.
It's pink.
Okay, so the one item we did note, I believe, was on Farrell is the covenants. It's kind of one of those where they can do what they want to do, but we read something and thought, man, that could really shoot somebody in the foot. So it has the normal, like for residential use only, but it kind of has an extra clause that prohibits everything that's not residential or agricultural, which would mean the way the covenants are written, they cannot have a home occupation where, say, somebody wanted to sell Mary Kay or, whatever, they would be in violation of their covenants. So they're more strict than what the zoning ordinance was. So we wanted to make sure that the applicant really did mean to restrict themselves and all future owners from having any business activities of any kind.
Other than farming.
Other than farming,
related.
which is weirdly okay. And it's not a violation of anything in our rules. It's just, I think all of you have been on the board long enough to see subdivisions have to come back and replat because somebody put something excessively restrictive in it, and then their life or ideas change, and all of a sudden they find that instead of just being able to do it, they have to go through this whole long process when they could have just had simpler covenants. And this is a one-lot minor subdivision, so it would just be if a neighbor disagreed with what they were doing, they would suddenly open themselves up to enforcement from somebody who lives nearby on something that otherwise would be fine. In terms of the county recorder, there's no other names with T.C. Farrell in them, so that seems to be fine. So consequently, staff would recommend granting primary approval of the minor subdivision, with the note that if the petitioner doesn't realize that they've restricted themselves, perhaps we should make that, make
Yeah.
it clear that they're permitted to modify that one clause to allow minor home occupations before we sign the secondary.
Okay. Would the petitioner like to add anything?
No, we weren't aware of that, but.
Can I have you go to the microphone? We're on YouTube, so they all want to hear you out there.
No, we weren't aware of the restrictions. I guess we can talk to the surveyor about it, but I can't imagine we would do anything or the neighbor that we would have wouldn't have any objections, but
From
I understand.
my experience, I would make them less restrictive.
yeah.
As restrictive as we require, but no more restrictive, so that if you just
Yeah.
never know, like in 20 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
what's going to happen, rather
Okay.
than boxing yourself in, because
Yeah.
whether it's you or if you sold it in a future homeowner, they then have to go through this possible process. So,
All right.
but yeah, any other questions for Taylor? No. Okay. Anyone else here to speak on this? Okay. Board discussion? No discussion?
Discussion?
Okay.
Good, have nothing.
Do we have a motion to encompass that?
I would make a motion to approve this application with the condition that they modify their covenants to be a little more, less restrictive.
Okay.
With respect to, home occupations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. We had a motion to grant primary approval with a modification to the covenants in a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Jordan Brewer,
Yes.
Ben Sheets,
Yes.
Walt Minnick,
Yes.
Jeff Chanawith,
Yes.
Chad Colby.
Yes.
So primary's passed through your surveyor, make that change, and then the secondary's filed administratively in our office. It's a lot quicker.
Okay, next up is application CC 2025-00494, petition of Patricia Eisenhower.
Yeah, so this is a request for rezoning. So in this case, we're a recommending body to a legislative body because it's a law change. So this is in Kirkland. They're requesting rezoning from the medium density residential district to the B2 central business district. The property in question is zoned medium density residential right now, and it is surrounded on two sides by medium density residential, but it's also right up against the downtown, and so the other two sides are zoned central business. The site consists of two lots on the west side of North Main Street, and the north side of, west side of the north, it's on the corner.
North of Jefferson.
Where 421 and Jefferson Street, which is 38, intersect. And I'm not sure why my brain was having so much trouble with that, but it's on the corner. I think it would be considered to be the northwest corner. The petitioner would like to rezone the lots in order to construct a new structure for retail storefronts, specifically a liquor store to replace the existing one she already operates in Kirkland, and then she'd like to be able to have a few extra storefronts as well, so there'll be a little area of retail, not just the liquor store. The site is the only corner at the intersection that is residential. The other corners are all already central business. There's a picture here on the second page. You can kind of see this lot. It really doesn't look like a residential lot with the way that it's currently arranged. There's 5 criteria which the Area Plan Commission and the Kirkland Town Board should pay reasonable regard to as they evaluate the request. So first is the most recently adopted comprehensive plan. The Town of Kirkland future land use map on the 2012 Clinton County Comprehensive Plan does designate this for residential use. However, Kirkland has experienced substantial growth in both residential and commercial since the plan was written. The comp plan states under land use that the community of Kirkland's future growth will continue to be dependent on its location on the transportation corridor and its proximity to Indianapolis, Hamilton County, and Boone County, which are both noted as 2 of the fastest growing counties in Indiana. Kirkland has a strength in its low cost of living and low taxes. So although the site is located just north of kind of where the comp plan shows that downtown, it is directly up against it. There's been a lot of commercial growth in Kirkland, so this is kind of the next available lot to be able to continue to expand that downtown. Of all of our small towns, Kirkland probably has the fewest vacant commercial structures sitting there that are options for people to use. 2, the current conditions and the character of the structure and uses in each district. So the request for central business in this area does seem fitting because this is an intersection between 2 state roads that would accommodate a business use well. The 3 corners adjacent are already zoned central business, so it would be an expansion of the downtown, not a spot zone. Staff's understanding is that they plan to build a new structure here and transition the liquor store as well as have some smaller storefronts, so you kind of have some mixed retail on the corner. 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. So the ground is zoned residential. Staff's not sure what was on it before, but it appears it's been overflow parking for neighboring properties in at least recent years. Retail storefronts would seem to be a more desirable land use than overflow parking or a vacant lot. Also, I would note, this is a really busy intersection. It's probably not the most desirable location to put a house. It would end up being real close to the road where, you've got a lot of traffic coming through. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. So the proposed plan will include building a new structure, which should have a positive effect on nearby property values and possibly attracting more tourism into Kirkland's growing downtown. The redevelopment should be subject to a development plan to confirm standards are being met, and new sidewalks should be installed as part of that. 5, responsible growth and development. So adding more business retail here just outside of the designated downtown, where nearly all the buildings are already used, would appear to be responsible growth and development as long as it's done in a way that's expanding the downtown area. So consequently, staff would recommend approval, or in this case, to favorably certify the rezoning application to the Kirkland Town Board. However, and I hadn't had much luck when we were writing this. I think you were gone somewhere, and we hadn't had much contact with Kirkland, but staff does have a concern in this location, not about the rezoning itself, but we would recommend maybe placing some commitments on the rezone to recommend to the town of Kirkland. Of course, the town can add or subtract or change those, as we're only a recommending body, but staff does have a concern that this would not be a good location to end up with a cheap pole barn style commercial building, or a strip mall type where you have swirling traffic in 2 more directions going around that intersection. It really needs to look similar to the downtown area and be an expansion of that area, not something that looks completely out of character. So I kind of just recommended sort of a place to start with commitments. First, that the development must be compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown, including streetscape and sidewalks on both frontages. 2, because downtown central business is not typically subject to a formal development plan process. Adding the commitment that this parcel would be subject to a development plan review process with a hearing to verify design that not only meets the UDO requirements, but is also aesthetically and functionally compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown to the town board and APC's satisfaction. And what I tried to do with those conditions is make it clear that what goes there needs to match the downtown, but not write in so many restrictive things about exactly what the building has to look like that there's no flexibility for the developers in figuring out how to do that. And I didn't want to tie the town of Kirkland's hands, not knowing what the town board was perhaps thinking about what they would view as being in character. So that's why I kind of made it open that we want it to be consistent with the downtown, and then tying into the development plan review process allows a formal way of working through that process to make sure both the town board and the APC are happy and we're not creating a traffic hazard in the way that that's placed in there.
Because you also have fire station right across from it.
You do. Now it
full
is,
apps.
downtown district does not require off-street parking, so, I would actually prefer to see less parking on site because it's retail, no apartments, so you're not gonna have people there all the time.
Right.
And see a building that, it's more like your downtown and allows, more walkability and interaction between stuff, rather than having a swirl, which NDOT may not even approve, where you have traffic trying to turn in from two corners plus the two highways and the fire station.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? As a member of the council in Kirkland, we are very concerned about the building must be set back equal with the houses in the fire department. That's a dangerous intersection. There's accidents there periodically. Really, the state needs to put a stoplight or a four-way stop or something in there. But it has not happened. We've asked for it in the past. They don't seem to be concerned because it is two highways crossing each other. So that's one of the mandates. You must have back so there's plenty of visibility when you get to that intersection. And you understand what I'm saying, the houses to the north and the fire station, they must be, cannot stick out any further than that. And that's our biggest concern, there, it's a high traffic area.
We
No
could
doubt
either add a
about it.
commitment or it's something we could look at in the development plan process.
Yeah.
So-
And all the businesses are basically on that same line.
The
They
northern
sit
part of
back a little
downtown.
bit more when you get down past the stoplight, but they've been there for 100 years. Most of a lot of those buildings are really old. They're in good shape, but they're old. Well, you're in one right there too.
Well,
She's got one now.
so is there anything you guys would like to add or have a conversation? If so, just if you could go to the mic for me.
One thing I just wanted to
Yeah.
So, my name's Albert Stancato, I'm the broker that's involved in this. She mentioned two parcels, and it's actually one parent parcel with two child parcels. It calls them Lot 66, or Lot 68 and 67. I just want to clarify that that is three separate parcel numbers. It's not two.
No, so it is, but there was an illegal split, so that's actually platted as two separate parcels, lot
Okay.
67 and 68. Someone before zoning apparently tried to illegally split one of those, but they're back in common ownership, that can't be divided
Okay,
back
because
out.
the GIS shows it as three separate numbers.
Yeah, it does have three different tax parcels, but its legal description is two platted lots, which are lots 67 and 68. I couldn't begin to tell you why somebody tried to divide one of them, but they're back together now, so they can't be re-separated.
Okay, which is not a problem. And my other question would be, and I don't know if anyone knows this, you mentioned that they want it to be parallel. What's the other setback requirements on the UDO for that?
So the downtown district does not require any setbacks. It's zero lot line structures,
Okay.
which is why it's a relevant conversation topic, because if Kirkland wants that, and I agree, having a building come right to the corner of that location probably would result in wrecks. So if Kirkland wants that to stay in line with like the fire station there, then we should add that as a commitment on the rezoning, not just because of you guys, but if something happens 40 years from now and a building is rebuilt there again, or someone wants to make an addition, it makes it clear that this particular zone parcel has slightly different setbacks than the rest of the B2 district in Kirkland.
And the other thing you need to take into account, 421 there has a very wide,
It is very wide.
It is very
Yep.
wide. So your actual setback required is
You're saying the state right of way.
the state
This is
right
right-
away,
Right
yes.
of way is
yeah,
wide.
That's
into that
very
property,
wide.
Yes, so you're already
Yep.
confined from that
Yeah.
Yep.
as
I-
well.
I would probably just write that as, in line with existing construction is probably how I would write that commitment.
Because
you've
all
got,
those are already set back quite a bit.
you've got a
on-
house.
on the-
Yep, and then you've got the.
On the
fire
south
station and another
side,
house.
south of it, because of that right of way.
Yep,
I don't know how wide 38 is there.
not as
As
wide.
wide.
I would guess 38 is a 50 or a 60 foot, just eyeballing it based on what you normally see in towns. It looks like 421 is closer. In fact, you know what? It is a 100-foot right away because when we were looking
Yeah.
at trail stuff,
Yeah.
the state's willing to work with being able to position something within the right of way because they have such a wide right of way.
Yeah.
Through Clinton County, not when you get down into Boone. It's for whatever reason, it's just us.
Well, 421 is wider than 38.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a federal highway, so it's wider than a state highway.
So there was two commitments listed, and then we've kind of at least thrown out the idea of the third commitment, you know, to keep consistency. Does that seem agreeable?
That's her ultimate decision.
Those commitments agreeable to you?
One other question while she's coming up that I have. So you mentioned that you're asking for the aesthetics to be looked at and basically have the final decision on the Kirkland board, correct?
No, it'll actually, the development plan, if this commitment goes through, will actually come back to this board. But as part of that process, Kirkland Town Board will supply formal input in it. So it'll be very similar. I don't know, you may not be from Kirkland, but it'll be very similar to how the Dollar General process went, which went through both some local review for Kirkland to make sure that things met what they needed, and then also went through area plan to make sure that everything matched there. And what happens with the development plan is your design is just a little more formal on the front end, instead of getting a permit and then not being able to get your CO till you get all your development standards met, but maybe not realizing what they were on the front end because they're done administratively in the process, rather than formally looking at it and being able to say, yep, you're good, do it like this and you'll be fine.
Now, will there be any restrictions on the curb cuts coming from 421? Because someone mentioned they don't want traffic coming.
So that's an NDOT question, and NDOT's,
Okay.
I did send this to NDOT, and I haven't heard any response back.
they were actually quiet on both of the things we sent to them, so they may just be busy, but I'll tell you from experience, I would be very, very surprised if NDOT allows a bunch of curb cuts right up against this intersection. There's minimum distances that you typically have to be back, and I know as staff for the APC, I'm gonna be advising against putting a bunch of curb cuts, because you already have a lot of traffic and wrecks and risk there, and you have fire trucks potentially exiting. And now if we add a bunch of traffic swirling in a circle in and out of a parking lot, you're just adding. And this zoning district does not require off-street parking. You're talking about only retail types of stores, not like apartments where people are gonna park 24/7 and be clogging things. People are gonna come, they're gonna park, they're gonna buy what they're buying, they're gonna go. So I'm not gonna say there's no parking that would make sense. You need to propose something on a development plan, but I know NDOT's not gonna let something be real close to that corner. There's distances you have to be back from an intersection for them to even consider it.
So when she's doing a site plan, don't consider curb cuts on 421.
I would certainly talk to NDOT and to us about it before you have an engineer put a lot of effort into drawing something.
There's already been curb cuts there in the past. Is it different? Would it be different now?
That is an NDOT question. I have seen them sometimes honor things in the past, sometimes not, if it's for the exact same purpose versus if it's not. Sometimes if the roads are busier, they won't. The state just isn't here to say, how they do or don't, feel about that. You're gonna need sidewalks and downtown landscaping in there too. So, I think you probably just need to get to a point of having a site plan and then be able to look at it and run that proposal by NDOT and by our office and the UDO and see how what you wanna do measures up. I'd recommend you maybe don't put a bunch of money into an engineer, just hand sketch what you're thinking first and have us take a look at it, and then if it seems like it's gonna work, then go on to commit to the plan.
A lot of that in that area has angle parking in the business district, so
Yes.
that might make sense.
It might. But
Angle parking on 421.
But again, then when you back up, you're backing into semi-trucks turning
Yeah.
into that.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
off 421 parking make more sense since it is such a busy intersection?
I think that's gonna be first and foremost an NDOT question.
Yeah.
Like, the NDOT is not like it's not like NDOT decides something on the fly. Like, they have a ton of standards that are adopted by the state legislator about how different things happen. So I think before we get too far into the weeds about what it is or isn't acceptable locally, NDOT needs to say what is or isn't acceptable to them. Otherwise, we may lead you down a path or dissuade you from a path that NDOT's gonna feel differently about, and that's their road, first and foremost.
The setback that you were talking about was for the actual building.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, I would focus on the commitments that were shared here and being agreeable to those, rather than some of those details, because we can't answer that, and that's more in design and planning
Okay,
phase.
so we gave you a picture of a building. In the things that she wrote, she mentioned not to have a full building. We have a beautiful pole building, and we would be right next to the pole building that's the fire barn. So I.
We didn't
we're
receive a picture.
Okay. We don't have.
We have a picture.
I think ultimately that's something you'd need to take up with the Kirkland Town Council and see how they feel about it. They're gonna be the final decision maker. They can modify any of these commitments. Technically, the commitment does not say no pole building. It says development must be compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown. So if Kirkland feels something is compatible, it's just traditionally, like in our small towns, when you start putting in pole buildings, you sort of ruin that character, that look that a downtown has. So that was an
there's ways to-
example of something, but
There's a way to do facades though.
Yeah.
Like our existing building has board and batten. It's gonna have a beautiful, our proposal is to have a beautiful, overhang that's a porch section, much like Booker's has or the bank has as well,
So your commitments do not state anything about the exact, I very deliberately tried to leave them vague, so there was room for negotiation, but I'll read them again for you, just so you can. So first, the development must be compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown, including downtown streetscape and sidewalks on both frontages. 2, this parcel will be subject, I guess it should be these parcels, this building lot, but will be subject to a development plan review process with a hearing. That'll be back at this board to verify a design that not only meets the Unified Development Ordinance requirements, but is also aesthetically and functionally compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown to the town board and APC's satisfaction. So I think that's something you'd need to take up when you get to that development plan process. Or if you wouldn't want the rezoning, if you can't build it that way, then maybe you want to have that conversation at your rezoning hearing with, the second part of this approval. If you would say, nope, I don't want it rezoned if I can't build this exact structure. But there's nothing in those 2 commitments that specifically says you have to have brick or you have to have any one thing. I tried to leave it open so there could be that conversation.
Okay. Another question that I would have regarding the NDOT that you're mentioning, you said that they have specific details regarding highways that are set back. Are those online where we can go read
I
those?
don't know. I have to call them. Usually you get assigned to an engineer and they're gonna tell you pretty non-negotiably, usually, what that is or isn't. Jordan can probably speak for the commissioners, even at the governmental level locally, NDOT pretty well, like they know what it is that they want or don't want to see, and that's,
Yeah,
they're
that's what
gonna tell you
I
what
was
it
just
is.
wondering if it was out there where we could.
No.
Not that I've ever found it.
Okay.
I think it's case by case.
Okay.
So-
Maybe internally they have some level of standards they all follow, but every site's a little different too. So, but yeah, I'm not going to say they'll work with you, but they'll communicate what they want.
Yeah.
It'll be the Crawfordsville office that you'll be working with in this region.
And we want to continue on with the rezoning because, having the business in Kirkland already, we think that, like you said earlier, it makes most sense. You're not going to put a house there. You're not going to
Yeah.
raise children on that corner. So, yeah, we need to continue on with the,
Are those 2 commitments acceptable?
I
3.
believe so, yeah.
And then the third one that we were talking about is adding a commitment that states that the building will be, at or behind the average setback of the adjacent buildings on both
I would
sides.
agree with at or behind. That's what we're looking at, yeah.
Okay. I will take a moment to try to
Okay.
draft something here if we get to that point.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. Board, is there any?
It'd be,
Question.
can I throw in, One thing would be best if you set the building towards the north of the lot where you could have side angle parking, whatever,
Agreed.
besides the setback from 421.
And that's area's already being used to parking
I know.
quite often.
There'll probably be fewer cars parked on it after we build it.
Well, let's hope not. I hope you have a lot more business than that, but
Cars
yeah.
are coming and going all the way.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to refine that motion? Or you want me to refine it and then someone put it for it? So it would be, if I can summarize, it would be to recommend the approval and favorably certify the rezoning application to the Kirkland Town Board with the commitments. Perfect. Three commitments. The development must be compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown to include downtown streetscape and sidewalks on both frontage. The parcel will be subject to the development plan review process with a hearing to verify the design that not only meets the UDO requirements, but also is aesthetically and functionally compatible with Kirkland's existing downtown, to the town board as well as APC's satisfaction, and then that all structures must sit at or behind the average setback of the current structures on the adjacent properties. So that would be what we are passing on to town of Kirkland. Again, they can then refine that to their liking a little more if they desire, but that kind of maybe gives it a skeleton to take to them and work with some of the details through.
And what'll happen with commitments is what the board recommends here. We'll go ahead and put together a document that has those commitments on it. And then you'll sign that before it goes to the Kirkland Town Board. It gives us permission to record it if they approve the rezoning. So basically, that's the guarantee that those commitments are gonna get recorded, and then they're binding not just on you guys, but any other future property owner who might buy that if they ever redeveloped it for some reason. So we'll, assuming that's how it goes through. Now, if Kirkland changes it, then we'll recommend Kirkland table it, until their next meeting, so we can redo those commitments a different way. But that's the way commitments work, is there'll be that document prepared ahead of time, and we'll just carry it with us to Kirkland's meeting, and then if they approve it, we'll bring it and record it the next day.
Are you gonna be able to wrap this up pretty quick? We got a meeting coming up pretty.
Yeah,
When's your
July
meeting?
14th.
Oh, yeah, as
Yeah.
long as they can come in and sign, I don't see, it usually takes us a day or so to get
Okay.
the documents put together, and then
I
Dan
just
has to
wanted-
sign them, but
wanted to
he's
tell
not
you
hard
next
to
week
track
there's a
down.
meeting.
Sometime.
Yeah.
I said next week
Yeah.
or a week after next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we already have a template we use, so
Okay.
both our
We're late this month.
Lupaco, which is
It's
to you
14.
guys, yeah, and the commitments, we just
Yeah.
have to swap it out for this case's details and then get signatures.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Do we have a motion?
I think it's a great location for a business. It looks like it fits there naturally. I did notice in the staff report, looking at the GIS aerials, it's kind of a challenge, so I did go back and look. I couldn't find anything except on the Sanborn maps in 1907, it was a livery and a sales location. So sales,
A livery, horses. And,
Maybe that should be our theme.
So you've got no aerials on it at all?
not showing anything past 1962.
Okay.
Is all the tanks gone?
Yep.
I
I have no idea about that.
that used to be a gas station.
That's what I've always been told.
That's why that concrete wall and stuff was.
Do we have a motion?
That's a motion with the
All right.
commitments.
All right. Second. All right, roll call, please.
Dan Chad was my second.
Yeah.
Jordan Brewer,
Yes.
Dan Sheets,
Yes.
Walt Minnick,
Yes,
Jeff Chanelwith,
Yes.
Chad Colby.
Yes.
All right, so that's a favorable recommendation with 3 commitments. So this will be at the Kirkland Town Board's meeting later this month. We'll have a staff member down there and we'll make sure they have all the documents ahead of time. And then we'll reach out when we have the commitment form ready to sign.
Much.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to
That's
leave. You
under-
don't have to stay.
There's a
for the-
fever game that we have.
I think it's at 8.
Council meeting's on
It's
the
at 8 o'clock.
14th.
We're ready.
I'm aware.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we need to have a waiver for the filing deadline of 19 days for application CC 2025-00526.
Motion to grant the waiver.
Motion, do we have a second? Second. Second from Jeff or Chad. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we will move on to the petition of Sharon Ping. If you could take us through that, please.
Do you have that third page of the staff report that I wrote on?
I do.
You can pass that down. We're gonna need it at some point. Our memory isn't that good. Okay, the applicant, as George stated, is Sharon Ping, requesting primary approval of a one-lot minor subdivision called the Ping Addition. Both this property and everything around it are zoned agriculturally. The site is a 2.8170 acre first split of a 63.65 acre parent tract on the east side of North State Road 29 between 400 North and 500 North in section 14 of Michigan Township. The petitioner would like to build a single non-farm dwelling on the proposed new lot for her family. A point system was run here. It did score enough to be administratively approved rather than go to the BZA. There was formerly a house in this location. It does have some floodplain on the farthest northern tip of the lot. On the second page, you can see where that floodway is. And then a picture kind of the southern part of the lot where the existing barns are sitting. The new home is in the C. Nixon legal watershed, and the soil breakdown is there if you're curious to read it. In terms of a request analysis, this is a primary plat approval request for a single lot minor subdivision. Standard rural development protection language is included in the covenants. The surveyor's office reports that this got unanimous drainage approval from the Drainage Board on May 6th of 2025. The health department has approved this as suitable for a septic. It will require a perimeter drainage outlet, and that outlet has been located and is shown on the plat. The access for this is from a state road. NDOT has noted they have no objection to the private entrance being for one home. Since no alterations are being requested, they won't need a permit. And finally, the enforcement clause in the covenants is included and can be initiated by any adjacent landowner within 1320 foot. Ron submitted corrections if you're checking.
Yeah, okay,
That.
so he,
So in terms of restrictive covenants for your principles and standards of design, Jay did have a couple changes. I think the most significant of them being that we were missing a signatory. So Ron brought us a revision, so I was handing that to Jay so he can check to make sure that everything meets his satisfaction. Meanwhile, I'll note that having checked with the county recorder, there's no other names with the name Ping Addition in them, so there doesn't seem to be an issue there. So consequently, staff would recommend granting primary approval of the minor subdivision, provided that the covenants do meet Jay's satisfaction, or contingent on them being amended if there's anything still missing.
yeah, I didn't really have anything with the covenants. It was the applicant was only half of what we needed. We had the life estate owner signed the application, but all people in ownership are supposed to sign, and he's now changed
Gotcha.
the form. So when it's properly executed, it'll be signed by both the remainder owner and the current right of occupancy
Gotcha.
owner.
Okay. Would the petitioner or representative like to add anything? Nope, good, we're all good. Okay. Board, any questions or discussions?
It's an unusual lot, if you've noticed. It has a V in it where the state purchased ground, and then he's included land that is still titled in the ownership, but is in what is the apparent state highway right away, which I understand why he did it that way. It's just unusual.
Gotcha. Do we have a,
And the other thing to note is he's got plenty of acreage, even when you subtract that out.
well, and that's all in the floodplain anyways, right?
Well, some of it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this.
It's actually-
Yeah, that's out, but I'm saying that that part.
Yeah, that part is.
Yeah, the V part. That
Legal
you-
dream goes
yeah.
right through
Yeah.
there.
So, do we have a motion to grant primary approval?
I'd make that motion.
Jeff is the motion.
Second.
Chad's the second. Roll call, please.
Jordan Brewer,
Yes.
Dan Sheets,
Yes.
Walt Minnick,
Yes,
Jeff Chanelwith,
Yes.
Chad Colby,
Yes.
5-0.
Okay. That is all for the public hearings this evening, but we have a couple items under new business. If you could take us through. The first one listed is our interlocal agreement.
Yeah, so this one's just kind of a follow-up to what we've been discussing previously, where the personnel policy handbook had some language and some things that conflicted with state law and how we're required to do things. And so myself and Jordan and Alan Dunn with County Council worked really hard to come up with an interlocal, kind of clarified the points to make sure that there was mutual respect, but at the same time compliance with state law. So the commissioners have already signed this. They adopted it June 17th. So now it's to the Plan Commission to sign, and then it would go to County Council at their meeting on the 8th. I think we would just need a vote, and then in this case, everybody present would need to sign on individual lines rather than having a representative sign for the board.
Any questions from the board on that? We discussed this at a,
It's been a while.
yeah, it's been a few
Yes.
meetings ago, but it was brought up, and then Jay worked tirelessly, Tom, and Liz, I'm not gonna take much credit, but had input, and we finally were able to get that accomplished, so.
It's been a long haul, but we definitely needed it, and I think it's good that we have it. I would make a motion to adopt it.
Okay, motion?
I'll second. Or whomever.
Walt, we'll give it to Walt. I don't think
Walt
he has a
hasn't had
second
one yet.
tonight, so he gets one. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes.
I'm gonna pass. I'm just gonna pass the signature. So just to make sure, here at the bottom is where Clinton County Area Plan is. Skip the middle section because the commissioners don't wanna have to sign this again. And so you'll sign here, and when you run out of those 3 lines, then it's on the next page.
Okay. Have one other item under new business real quick.
You sign up top on it.
Yeah,
Just need to be in blue.
doesn't matter,
All right.
but here you can have blue if you want.
He has one.
I'll do mine in
I'll
blue.
let it get passed around. Yes. You're on the back page.
And once county council signs this, then we'll provide copies to the records of all 3 boards, and then a copy to the auditor, and this is what the auditor's requiring to show that they're okay to go ahead and move forward without any further conflict with anybody, and that we've all worked it out, and we'll be able to smooth sailing ahead.
Okay.
So,
So the last thing that I have for the board is, I don't know, Liz might know. I can't remember when I started, 2015, 16, 17, somewhere in
Probably.
there. But a lot of things have changed with me personally this spring, and with all that I do at the commissioner level, taking on the chair of the GOP, and then those personal responsibilities that have changed, I've had to just make some decisions. And so tonight, I'm going to effectively resign from the area plan as the commissioner representative. And so this is my last meeting. I've enjoyed it over the course of the last, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, close to 10.
It's close. I
Yeah.
don't remember exactly when I came on, but it's definitely bittersweet. But it's one of those things where I only have so much time, and each plate takes so much. And then my commitment, as we've seen, I'm not here as much as I would like to be, and that's just not right for the board or the position. So I'm doing a disservice, and I don't want to continue to do that going forward. And I know I'm not going to be able to honor the commitment like I should in this position. So I have a letter that I'll hand in to Liz, but I'm gonna resign effectively immediately, and then the commissioners will make an appointment at our next meeting here on July 15th, I believe. So, yep.
I'd like to say that we greatly have appreciated your presence and help and involvement. You've been a great member, and as staff, we see kind of all ranges. And you've always asked good questions and tried to be fair and look at the facts and cases, and we greatly appreciate that. And we'll miss you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed working with you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So, well, with that, I won't say our next meeting, your guys' next meeting, will be August 5th. And is there any other business to come before the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Who was my
Jeff?
Perfect. I always have trouble, those two spots down there, like the way the sound bounces, if I'm not